Led Senate's first vote to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act suffered a bipartisan rebuke. Late last night, 9 Republicans joined every Democrat to vote down that plan.
This came just hours after Senator John McCain's dramatic return to the chamber. McCain received a standing ovation yesterday from his Senate colleagues.
This was the senator's first time back since being diagnosed with brain cancer. Nancy Cordes is on Capitol Hill with the big challenges facing the Republican effort to overturn Obamacare. Nancy, good morning. Sure was good to see John McCain yesterday.
It really was. But then that big setback for Republicans just a couple of hours later. And what that vote shows is that whatever Republicans end up with at the conclusion of this days-long process, it is unlikely to be a full replacement plan for Obamacare. This was the latest replacement plan they've got, and it saw defections from moderates, from conservatives, and some centrists.
The motion is not agreed to.
The setback came just hours after the Senate narrowly voted to begin debate. Even then, it took John McCain arriving from Arizona to put Republicans over the top.
Mr. McCain, aye.
Senator McCain, newly diagnosed with cancer, then berated the body he has served in for 30 years.
We're getting nothing done, my friends. We're getting nothing done.
He made it clear that while he voted to start debate on the GOP's plan, he is no fan of the plan itself.
I will not vote for this bill as it is today. It's a shell of a bill right now. We all know that.
McCain said the problem lies with the way the bill was constructed behind closed doors.
Springing it on skeptical members, trying to convince them that it's better than nothing. That it's better than nothing? I don't think that's going to work in the end, and probably shouldn't.
Yeah! Protesters across the Capitol agreed. McCain urged his colleagues to return to the Senate's roots and compromise.
Let's trust each other. Let's return to regular order. We've been spinning our wheels on too many important issues because we keep trying to find a way to win without help from across the aisle.
His colleagues applauded him.
John McCain's my hero.
Even as they prepared
let's repeal Obamacare, let's lower premiums
for the intensely partisan battle to come.
We got to fight? Yeah!
McCain says he's going to be returning to Phoenix in a few days to begin cancer treatment, but he joked that he will be back, Charlie, to make all his colleagues regret the nice things they've been saying about him lately.
John McCain has both Republicans and Democrats' well wishes as he goes back for this medical treatment. The question is, for me and I think America, what next? Where are we? What's going to happen?
Well, this process that Republicans are using allows for unlimited amendments from the right and the left. So this is really a series of votes, perhaps hundreds of votes on amendments that could take several days. And there's no guarantee that it will result in anything. There you have a lot of Republicans, Charlie, who have said that they're very skeptical about anything that their party has put forward so far. So it's quite possible that they'll vote no at the end of the day, and Republicans will have to go back to the drawing board, maybe even with Democrats.
Thank you, Nancy.
Consulting with my generals and military experts, please be advised that the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military. Our military must be focused on decisive and overwhelming, and it looks like there's going to be more to come. Congressman Kingston, as someone who worked on the Trump campaign as a fellow Republican, what is your response?
Well, I think that the lead of the statement is that he's listened to his military advisors, which is one of the criticisms from the left and the right often that the president gets, is that he doesn't listen to the key people, whether they're in the intel community or local law enforcement or whatever. So this is a case where he's actually saying, I've sat down, I've heard their concerns, and you know, I want to say one other thing as a Republican, taking a step back. At the Republican convention last July, he was the first nominee in the history of our party to talk about LGBTQ from the platform of the state arena. And I think, you know, he is a progressive guy. Ted Cruz accused him of having New York values, meaning far more tolerant. So I don't think it's you know, a slam against transgender as much as practicality that his generals and his military leadership is saying not right now.
Judiciary Committee pulled back its subpoena of former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort to testify on the Russia probe. Manafort spoke yesterday with congressional investigators. He also began producing documents for the Senate Judiciary Committee. The House Intelligence Committee interviewed President Trump's son-in-law and White House advisor, that's Jared Kushner. That meeting on his ties to Russian officials and businessmen lasted almost 3 hours.
Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy is a member of the House Intelligence Committee that heard yesterday from Jared Kushner. He also became chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee last month. He's with us from the Capitol. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I know you and your colleagues questioned Jared Kushner for about 3 hours yesterday. Did you learn anything different from his 11-page statement?
No, we did ask him to extrapolate. For instance, there's one quote where he says, "I didn't collude and I'm not aware of anyone with the campaign." I went ahead and asked him, are you aware of anyone not with the campaign who colluded, coordinated, conspired, confederated with Russia? He was unequivocal in his answer, which was no to all of the questions on both sides, both the Democrat and Republican side.
Did you find him truthful?
You know, I'm not a human polygraph. I spent 16 years in a courtroom trying to figure out whether or not a jury would believe someone or not. And you believe people when there's corroboration for what you say. For instance, Jared Kushner said he left the meeting in June of 2016, the Donald Trump Jr. meeting. He said he left shortly after he got there. Were there 2 emails that corroborate that, where he is telling his administrative assistant, get me out of here as quickly as you can. The most telling email to me was the one the day after the election, where he had to ask someone what's the name of the Russian ambassador because he couldn't remember. That ain't very good colluding when you can't remember the person you're supposed to be colluding with.
Let's turn now to President Trump's comments about the Attorney General and Jeff Sessions, calling him very weak in public. This is the top law enforcement official in the United States government. Are those comments out of order, wrong?
Well, they're not helpful. I think that you ought to praise in public and critique in private, and you shouldn't make personnel decisions, particularly at the cabinet level, via Twitter. It's a really hard job. The Attorney General doesn't work for the president. He works for a blindfolded woman holding a set of scales. It's a really important job that means a lot to me. I understand the president's frustration. Attorney General Sessions should have been more forthcoming with the meetings he had with Russians during the confirmation process. But this is best discussed privately between 2 grown-ups, and if he's lost confidence in him, then Attorney General Sessions can take the appropriate steps. But doing this publicly, I don't think helps our justice system.
You're saying that the Attorney General should have recused himself, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He didn't have any choice but to recuse himself. Now, he also should have told everyone about all the meetings he had with Russian diplomats or ambassadors. We shouldn't have to wait on the New York Times to tell us. He should tell us.
So the president is saying that if, in fact, the Attorney General that I'm planning to nominate had told me that he was going to do exactly what everybody thinks he should have done, he would not have nominated him to be his Attorney General, which is very strange, isn't it, on the face?
I don't think so. If I were interviewing people for the AG job, I would want to know, is there any reason you can't do the job? Are there any cases that you would need to recuse yourself from? I mean, let's don't kid ourselves. Jeff Sessions is not the only person in America qualified to be the Attorney General. I can name a bunch of people right now. So when you're going through the vetting process, one of the questions you ask is, are there any cases you're not going to be able to oversee or participate in? And when the answer is, yeah, there's a really big one because I didn't tell everyone about my meetings with Russian diplomats, that's something I would want to know.
What happens if the President of the United States fires Robert Mueller?
He can't fire Bob Mueller.
Meaning the Deputy Attorney General can? Or
the only person who can fire a special counsel is the Attorney General, who is recused, which means it's the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein. So there are a lot of moving parts for the president to be able to fire Bob Mueller.
The president has indicated in an interview with the New York Times that he is considering this, that he has consulted with advisors, that if Jeff Sessions resigns or is fired, while the Congress is on recess, someone can be put into that role of Attorney General and won't have to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate. Does that worry you?
I don't like recess appointments. I didn't like it when President Obama did it. I don't like it when Republican presidents. It circumvents the Constitution, and you can put me in the category of not liking recess appointments. I don't think the president's going to do that. And it would be a tough rest of his first term if he began to go the recess appointment route.
Congressman, this is a yes/no question. Should Robert Mueller be fired?
No. That's an easy. I could give you a two-word answer, but it's family television, so I won't do it.
Okay.
Does the first word begin with an H?
With an H.
All right. Don't tell my wife I said that.
All right, Congressman Gowdy, rocking the new stubble look. Is that a new look for you these days? Very nice.
Well, thank you. You're the first person to say that, and there are a million that have said otherwise, so thank you.
Well, Gail likes to comment
she's a woman of great taste.
Gail will always comment on lawmakers' appearance.
Yes, yes. You look good, Congressman. Thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all.
This is a Fox News alert. The U.S. intelligence community is warning of a pending rocket launch from Iran. That's according to two senior U.S. officials. The last one came just days after President Trump took office, prompting the White House to put Tehran, quote, on notice. Now, another missile launch by North Korea could also be coming. Some predicting that could be as soon as tonight.
Rules say if cities want a few million in federal grant money they've been getting for years, they will, number one, let ICE agents into the jails, physical and electronic, to find out if they are holding any criminal aliens that ICE wants to deport. Secondly, cities will tell ICE the date and time that those inmates are going to be released and give agents 48 hours to go pick them up. That sounds pretty straightforward, but it is something sanctuary cities have refused to do. The administration is saying, you want the money for new prosecutors, patrol cars, guns, vests? These are the conditions that you will meet.
New wildfires have been breaking out in southern France, posing threats to residents and holidaymakers and burning forest and scrubland. 10,000 people, including 3,000 campers, were evacuated overnight as a fire swept across a stretch of the Riviera. The past week has also seen thousands of hectares destroyed in Corsica, as well as other parts of southern Europe. More than 500 firefighters were called in as flames, whipped up by strong winds, threatened residential areas on a peninsula west of Saint-Tropez. The authorities moved people out of their homes and campsites, forcing them to take refuge on beaches where they spent the night. There was better news further along the coast, as emergency teams said another fire was no longer advancing. France has asked for help from neighbouring EU countries and ordered several water-dropping planes. In 2 days, more than 5,000 hectares have been destroyed and some 20 firefighters have been injured. Despite the occasionally terrifying skyline, no deaths have been reported, unlike in other parts of Europe this summer.
Remember the video I showed a few weeks ago? It was a bear cruising down on the sidecar of the motorcycle.
Right.
Remember that one? This one right here. Here it is.
I love that.
So in the theme of motorcycles, this clip might have met its match. Here's two buddies cruising down the highway. Then they notice something on the side of the road. We'll get to it here in a second. There it is. Check out what they see here. Closer look as they pass by. That's a nun riding on her bicycle.
Wait.
Just out to fulfill her need for speed. Look at her. She's in the full Tour de France tucked position in the downhill there, pushing the bike to the max.
With the basket.
Nun on the run.
Love it.
And that's something you see every day, right?
Good. Right?
That's what I imagine Martha Stewart looks like in the Hamptons. With a basket filled with fruits and veggies.
She's not wearing a wimple.
On her way to Snoop's house, right?
You may get a letter from Martha for that one.